What does it mean to sing freedom into being? To gather Black voices in a region often erased from our cultural maps and say, we are here, and we have always been here. I'm Jamar Wakefield, and you're watching In the Wake TV, where we center Black life, Black futures, and the power of story. Today, we're honored to sit with directors Haley Watson and Justin Emeka, two visionary artists behind the new documentary short, Songs of Black Folk, making its premiere at the 2025 Tribeca Festival. This isn't just a film, it's a record of something sacred, the largest annual gathering of Black musical talent in the Pacific Northwest. It's Juneteenth, its family legacy, its song as memory, protest, prayer, and placekeeping. Let's get into it.
My name's Shamar Wakefield, and I'm so excited to be here today with Justin Emeka and Haley Watson, the amazing creators behind the film Songs of Black Folk, which recently premiered at Tribeca. Thank you so much for spending some time today, and congratulations on making it into the film festival.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you.
You know, this film, there's from my perspective, there are many characters in this film. We have a character that is community, a character that is music. But I would love for you to, in your own words, introduce us to Ramón Bryant Braxton and Dr. Reverend Leslie Braxton. Talk to us about these folks because I think while music is eternal, none of us are. And I think this story is really timely and really important. Moment of intergenerational interaction, but also lineage and heritage. So I'll let whoever wants to jump in there, but introduce us to these characters.
hmm Well, I think one, Reverend Leslie Braxton is a black preacher who places himself in a long tradition of black theology, where the church and spirituality isn't just a form of worship, but it's also a form of revolutionary thought, revolutionary art, revolutionary expression. And he, very much promotes that. And his desire to create a ritual celebration using music to commemorate Juneteenth is kind of the testimony to that. And on the flip side, Ramón Bryant Braxton is also as a reflective of an incredible tradition of black composers and black musicians, who often aren't necessarily seen at the center because they're working in a form, classical music, which isn't pop music or isn't, on TV, but just a brilliant musician who has been tasked with putting this concert together. And so that's just kind of the foundational kind of characters that the story hangs on.
Which came first? I'm curious. I'm sorry, Haley, please.
No, I was just gonna add that they're both they describe their relationship very differently. Leslie describes their relationship as Abraham and Lot, and Ramon describes them as Fresh Prince and Uncle Phil. So you can see kind of how they have a similar idea about the relationship and the dynamic, but very different interpretations of how that works. But I think they're an amazing duo that believe on a cellular level about creating a tradition for Black music on the backdrop of Juneteenth, and they see full alignment there clearly, and are making this a standing position or tradition in the Pacific Northwest.
One of the things that's really relatable, especially about Ramon's story, is the fact that he leaves home to go to college and then returns. And that is a story that so many people understand, especially Black scholars who choose to go to HBCUs or really just choose to pursue an education anywhere. At some point, for the Black student, leaving home and returning home is this story of, going to find yourself, build yourself up, and then family calls, life calls, situation calls, and we see that in this film. And I don't want to reveal all of it, but it's really one of the most touching moments in this film. So much of it is celebratory around Black life and Black song, but this relationship between Ramon and his grandmother, who raised him, really it tugs at your heartstrings. And I'm curious about the creative choices around weaving that into the story of Juneteenth, as well as this amazing orchestra.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in first on that one. I think it was, we knew about the orchestra just in terms of a foundational moment of deciding to pursue this documentary and this amazing feat that Ramon and Leslie were trying to accomplish, this thing that required such a huge orchestrated effort. Um, and the story of Ramon's grandmother, Aileen, revealed itself over time. And it became such an important part of the conversation to kind of tie everything together of what is this all about? What is this all for? And in a lot of discussion with Justin, we really talked about this movie is by community, for community, about community. And I think Eileen's teachings to Ramon in his early life around music and tradition are really the contributing factor to where he is today, and why he decided to move forward with his uncle to create this amazing concert that they have on the backdrop of Juneteenth. And was something that we thought, people can find relation to. Everyone, unfortunately, at some point has to grapple with family, losing family, and the relationship there. And so it was something where, Eileen's teachings were so important to Ramon, highlighting her story and the foundation that she built, and really exemplified those themes that they were also covering in the concert, which was memory, legacy, and tradition.
I just want Justin, go ahead, please.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people will relate with just kind of the challenge, or something, rather like the blessing and the burden that education and quote unquote success brings, and as our just kind of our struggle to even define and determine what is success. How do we define success as individuals and as a community? I think many people will relate to, and just the function of music, and like the power of music, and how music is used to remember and know who you are, and hold on to who you are, and hold on to who you love. And the story of Ramon and his grandmother, that's some of the things we were trying to really, I guess, shine a light on.
The community piece, well, the light, you did it. Okay, so the community piece is really lovely. And, it reminded me of why documentaries are important. It reminded me of why spaces like festivals are important. It can be a struggle sometimes covering film festivals, because like it could be an indie film festival that has like a $8 million budget, and you're like, okay, that's cool, but what are we doing here? And I think, Haley, what you said around this being by community, for community, in community, is so critical to the arts, especially in times like these. And Justin, I agree with you that, the story of him coming home is really powerful, especially around finding yourself and defining success. And I felt this triumphant moment, though, knowing that he was coming home to community. That part really like warmed my heart, because I'm like, it's one thing to come home, it's one thing to leave, right, and then and build an identity in a world for yourself, and it's a whole nother thing to come home and not recognize home, or you don't have your friends there, you don't have your family there, or it feels fragmented because of the time and the distance and the space and memory.
Yeah.
So, the fact that he could come home to not only this project, but come home to family, come home to spiritual communities. I'm sure everyone who ever will watch this is rooting for Ramon in that very moment, and then, just that short period of having to create a Juneteenth concert in a few weeks is mind boggling to anyone who's ever produced anything, so it was just lovely.
Yeah. The idea of going back is such a romantic idea, and most all of us can relate to pursuing it. only to have our hearts broken a little bit, to see that, well, you can't ever go back, but there's some kind of ideal of like, well, can I go back and get and carry forward with what I remember, what I hold on to from back there, And so I think, the film, we kind of get to see that. We get to see somebody who's trying to look back and still move forward while realizing you can never go back.
Absolutely, and that perfectly aligns with the story of Juneteenth, right? Which we know as this, it's a freedom story
Yeah.
now, but imagine the horror of not knowing that you were free for a period of time, right? It's a horror story, and yet we found a way to commemorate and honor the lives of those who were able to survive and live, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that Juneteenth is the backdrop of this story and this coming home story. Talk to me about that creative choice of making it the center. Juneteenth is now a federal holiday, but it was not always. And it's still controversial in terms of how it's celebrated from region to region, city to city, town to town. And some places do not fully recognize it. So talk to me about that creative choice.
Mhm. Do you
Yeah,
want to go?
I'll start us off. I think in terms of natural, just in terms of structuring a film, the build up to accomplishing this large task of putting on this concert. But Ramon and Leslie are very specific about the language that they use. They do say the backdrop of Juneteenth. They don't say in celebration of Juneteenth, and that's very purposeful. And their feeling, if I can communicate it, and best is, I think their meaning was, there's a holiday and there's celebration, but Leslie, in conversation with him, talks about how, this isn't all the change that's needed. There's still so much work to do. There's actually, actual policies to be passed, real support other than just a holiday. But he also says, well, they gave us a holiday, so we're going to do something with it. So I think, just considering that as, yes, they have they have something that they want to build off of and celebrate, but it's also just the tipping point to create for further conversation, for real policy enactment for them, for ways of addressing inequities that involve Black culture, Black community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, there's a historical, diatribe in the Black liberation movement a little bit about like arts versus, politics, so to speak, or how or spirituality. Those are kind of the three lanes. It's like politics, spirituality, and creative fire, creative arts. And sometimes they're at odds with one another. Sometimes they're in judgment of one another. Political folks say, "Oh, that's not worthy of our time. You shouldn't be singing. You should be, organizing. You should be protesting," or so vice versa. And so oftentimes those three kind of areas can be at odds with each other. And I really wanted to kind of help craft a story that shows what happens when they're working together, though. When you do have a bit of it all, because we have a lot of that in our history, in our legacy, in our music. We do, they are not three separate ideas. They are intertwined with each other, and so this idea, this conversation around Juneteenth that we're still, kind of struggling to have, and we're new having it, even in the Black community, outside the Black community, the national community. This is a very nuanced and layered conversation, So I think at one level, it encompasses a lot: the music, Juneteenth, and the church.
No, I get that. And, in many ways, this film opens this sonic portal into this world of grief, but also joy and praise and family. And I think the reality that is happening behind all of this is that none of it happens in isolation. Right? We can be in grief and in joy at the same time, right? We can be in praise and in resistance at the same time. You can go to work and also be very against what you are experiencing and seeing in the world at the same time. And that's certainly that duality and that multiplicity of being is certainly a part of Blackness that has allowed Blackness to still be Blackness, all these hundreds of years later on this stolen land. But also, it's all communities, right? That way of surviving and being, it's certainly unique to Black communities, but it expands beyond our doors and homes and churches as well. So
and that's why the Black story is an inspiration for so many other stories. I mean, again, the Black liberation movement in America was the liberation movement all throughout Africa, all throughout Southeast Asia, all throughout South America. Our stories inspire each other.
absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about your backgrounds. Justin, I know you have a background in theater and capoeira, and Haley, I know you're a documentarian. How did those experiences benefit you and maybe even cause you to, pause and rethink the process in making this film?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I come from a technical background behind documentary filmmaking as well, where I was a first AC and a cinematographer a long time. And actually, Justin and I met because I was a cinematographer on a narrative film that he directed. And so that technical background served me really well moving into documentaries. I came from narrative filmmaking, commercial filmmaking, and found documentary during the pandemic. And just fell in love with the format. I was able to create an original documentary last year called Motorcycle Mary, and that experience was really invaluable, taking that into Songs of Black Folk and just understanding the craft of documentary filmmaking. And about the time that I was working on Justin's film as a cinematographer, Songs of Black Folk, the film was in the process of filmmaking, and I was able to bring Justin on and bring his expertise as not only a director, but as a theater artist who performed in Seattle, who had many performances over 25 years, who teaches directing and acting at Oberlin College, who brought in his personal experience as a Black man to help guide the narrative in terms of celebration of Juneteenth, which I was very naive to when I started the project. When Juneteenth became a holiday, I didn't know what it was. So I think it is something where we both have very strong points of view as a director, but it felt like a really natural partnership in terms of coming on as co-directors for this project specifically. But I was really grateful to bring in my perspective from documentary filmmaking to help shape and craft this story.
Yeah. Yeah, and as mentioned, I'm a professor of theater and Africana studies at Oberlin College, and so much of and a capoeirista, so much of my artistic expression is a bit of a convergence of Black cultural legacies and different classic forms. Artistic forms in theater and dance, so a lot of my work in the theater is reimagining Shakespearean classics through the lens of Black culture. So I did that for a long time, and I've just recently moved into filmmaking. And so when Haley introduced me to this project, it was kind of like right up my alley. Also, yeah, I am a product of Seattle. I grew up in the Seattle Black community, was kind of nurtured in that artistic community. And it was just it's a really amazing partnership. I mean, because I saw Haley came with such fire and such vision, and also many questions, because she wasn't familiar with Juneteenth, but she had such a kind of a burning vision to reveal this story that was happening. So I really just kind of help ask questions, help God provide context. We say, hey, well, you might want to look at this or think about this, or, and kind of help also hold the story together. And it was just really kind of a great partnership that we developed.
Well, Haley, your technical expertise certainly shows. It's a beautifully shot film with amazing choices, creative choices in terms of archival footage. And, just the fact that the film opens with what I assume is a VHS footage of Ramon, in the early years. The fact that you start there, I was like, oh, we're about to get into it today. Because, it yeah, just the use of archival footage was amazing. So I don't know if you could speak to that. And then Justin, I would love for you to get us into a conversation about the Pacific Northwest and Blackness. But Kayla, if you could talk to us about that archival footage, because I just think you did a beautiful job. And there's just no moment where I'm experiencing it, and I'm sure other audience members can agree, that you don't feel like you're being transported. And just from a filmmaker's perspective, we all know that sometimes people need filler. This film has no filler and no crumbs, right? Like it's a solid meal from the beginning to end. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's reassuring to me. But yeah, I feel like I guess if I was to bestow any advice to anybody looking for archival, aunts and grandmas are a great way to start. The archival was from the VHS tape that opens the film is from Ramon's paternal grandmother. So Eileen is his maternal grandmother, but his paternal grandmother, Claudette. There's a scene where we were filming Leslie and Ramon and his family having dinner, and actually at the conclusion of that dinner, I went to Claudette and said, "Well, do you have any photos or video of Ramon, or especially if he's playing piano?" And she goes, "Oh yes." And I walk into a back room, and there was a cabinet of VHS tapes, like neatly labeled with all of her grandkids, and she wanted to show me everybody's photo album. So being able to have access to that and the graciousness of the family to be able to share some of their personal history really added to that community feel, and helped contextualize also Ramon's incredible skill as a musician. He's seen that archival footage that opens the film, and he's very self-critical of it, and it's absolutely amazing. So he thinks it could have been done better, but
it's beautiful. I just want to say it's so beautiful.
I agree. But there were lots of other places that we were able to gather archival as well to contextualize not only Leslie and Ramon's life, but also the history of Juneteenth, how it was signed into law in our country to be by the Biden administration. There's also coverage from March on Washington, other protests, and things to kind of contextualize all these conversations that we're bringing together about Black community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, bravo. And Justin, if you could just talk to us about the Black community that you experienced, that that still exists in that region.
Well, I mean, Seattle has a very rich Black community, and not just Seattle, but Tacoma, Washington, which is a little bit further from Seattle. And I actually lived in Port Orchard, Washington sometimes. So in Bremerton, Washington, there's rich Black. I mean, there's just a lot of really rich Black communities throughout that whole region that, again, many people would not think of. So you don't think of Black culture. You don't think of hip hop. You don't think of breakdancing when you think of, Seattle and the Pacific Northwest. But it was there, and it's always kind of had a little bit of an uphill battle trying to be seen, trying to get resources, but I myself came up through Langston Hughes Performing Arts Center, which is a really rich arts center in the Central District of Seattle. Before that was Black Arts West, that came out of the 70s and in the 60s, and Seattle Children's Theater. And again, there's a rich community in Seattle that I wanted people to be excited about and feel good about and feel inspired by, because I know the region does work so hard to get a little bit of the respect that it deserves, but also to kind of suggest that there's these Black jewels all spread all over the country, and if you want to go further than that, spread all over the world. I'm just always excited about revealing, shining a light on Black culture in places you least expect to find it.
And that's the reason why this was one of my top picks from Tribeca this year. The reality that there are self-sustained, self-determined Black beautiful communities, all pockets of it all over the United States. It's not just the major cities that we think about. There is a small town right now where they are getting down and having a great time and celebrating art and living. And I agree with you that it is global. So, we certainly want to give all the flowers with this film, but also just recognize that there are all sorts of ways to live and thrive and be happy. I think one of the weaknesses, and especially in the United States, is that we think that the arts and life is anchored to New York, Los Angeles, and a few other places. But the truth is, you can have a thriving arts community wherever. You have people who want to have a thriving arts community. That is true all over this country. It's small town, big cities, small city, churches, libraries, wherever people gather and have decided that, hey, having voices, sharing stories, sharing music and testimony is important. There is life right there in that space, so, and I think that certainly exists within Black communities and in other communities, without regard for class or race or any of those things that we like to box ourselves up in. So no, that's why this film is just fantastic to me. Can you talk to me about the process of making this film in the way that it creates a second performance? Because a Juneteenth event, something you can go to, a concert, something you can go to, but this film is creating a new type of archive and creating a second performance that is not ephemeral. Can you talk to me about that? I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll jump in first. It was definitely like a huge motivation to doing this is that the concert that they had, and they actually just had their fourth annual concert ever. It's amazing. It's a 3-hour-long experience with beautiful music and amazing musicians. But live performance, unfortunately, it can be very fleeting. So this was a way to kind of make a appetizer to the full meal, so that everyone can experience a little bit of what this is like, and also give people who are seeing the concert also see into the motivations behind the two people that are putting it on, realizing the motivation behind it, the community aspect to this. So yeah, it was a huge goal to bring light to this group, and be able to use this as an example for other communities and encouragement and inspiration to others as well.
That's right. Yeah, we are, as you were kind of alluding to, Jamar, we're a spiritual people. We're an artful people, that kind of need to find our stage, need to find our paintbrushes, need to find our instruments. And again, a tragedy is when a community doesn't have access to the instruments of their own expression, And Reverend Braxton says it best in there, that one level he's doing a concert to inspire generations of new musicians, to allow a new generation to see themselves on the stage, to see what is possible and see, yes, that's me. I can do that, And from the same way, I think our film is working to do that as well at one level, to show people what's happening around Juneteenth, and hopefully even communities to say, hey, we can celebrate. There's this celebration going on. Let's contribute to it. Let's find it, and then let's also build on it in our own communities.
Absolutely. And hopefully it leads people to the question around, what is freedom, and what does that look like, and what freedoms do we need to be vigilant in protecting for all folks who are here in this space and around the world. Talk to me about what it is that you don't want people to miss about this experience of watching this film.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great question. And go ahead, Justin, if you got an answer, I want to think about that.
Yeah. Let me see. Part of it is, again, as artists, you make offerings, and you can't choose what the audience is going to take away from it, but there are, I guess, ideas that you want to offer to the community, that you hope receive them. And I think for me, I'm always concerned and kind of committed to offering a love foundation, like showing how black people, how black communities, how American communities, thrive and rely on love. And with a love foundation, there's still struggle, there's still revolution, there's still pain, but at the root of everything, of what makes us want to get up and keep going in the morning, is that which we love and makes us feel loved and helps us to love, which music plays a part of.
Yeah, I guess adding to that, I think, we also, in making this film about community, we want it to this isn't a film just for the Black community, this is for everyone. And it's because we have those universal themes in it. I think, like Justin's talking about with the underlying love, but also with the story of family and Ramon's grandmother, we hope that everyone can take away something from this film, whether it's, more knowledge of Juneteenth or being able to pass on tradition. There's something for everyone in this documentary.
That's right. It's like a buffet, it's like a Thanksgiving buffet. And like which food do you want to make sure they taste? I don't know. It's just I want them to feel full after, and have received something and be a little bit, transformed or moved some way.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about that, because I think this film certainly underscores the reality that we're all connected in ways that we may think about or may not think about. But whether it's music or Juneteenth or the Black experience or the American experience or losing a parent or a grandparent, or all of that are we're all connected in those stories somewhere. And I think you've done an immaculate job of weaving them together. What's your call of action and what's next?
Well, we just had the concert, but you can, this group also needs support for ongoing concerts. You can visit them at songsofblackfolk.org. I see you have that down there. Thank you. If you want to learn more about this amazing group, we have some festivals that are coming up where people will be able to enjoy the film, and hopefully some information about where you can watch it soon. But yeah, most of all, supporting Songs of Black Folk is one of our number one goals, to make sure this is a lasting tradition.
Right. There's trying to build that, that financial base that will help them do this year after year, and as far as the film, right, just keep your eye out for us. If talk us up. We're just getting started into the festival circuit and just starting to kind of bring it into the world. So, hopefully it'll reach different places. But, hey, I saw this amazing film called Songs of Black Folk. Keep your eye out for it. Hopefully it'll be out there soon.
Yeah, the Instagram for the film with announcements is at Songs of Black Folk Doc.
Yes. And you can follow me personally at Emeka1 at Instagram. So follow us. Haley and I are both very active artists and always doing a lot of great stuff. So Emeka1 at Instagram. Haley, you want to say yours?
At Haley L. Watson. Thank you.
Thank you. I was like, I hope they're going to drop their own handles, because we're talking to you and we want to know more. Well, you certainly have some friends here at In the Wig TV and a friend in me, because the work you're doing for the archive is tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And this film is absolutely beautiful. And I am going to make sure I make it in person for the next one, because I think it's something that my soul needs to experience as well. Congratulations to both of you, just for doing the work and persevering to complete a film, which people have no idea how hard of a task that can be. And thank you for caring about humanity in a way that shows it on screen. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Nora. Really appreciate it.
Songs of Black Folk reminds us that the stage is not just a place of performance. It is a site of return, resistance, and rebirth. We thank Haley Watson and Justin Emeka for guiding us into the heart of a community that refuses to be overlooked and a tradition that reimagines what freedom can sound like. If this conversation moved you, we invite you to take action. Support independent Black media by becoming a member of In the Wake TV at inthewake.tv. Your membership helps us continue to amplify the stories that matter with care, context, and power. And you can help uplift the ongoing work of Songs of Black Folk, the nonprofit, by nurturing Black artists, preserving musical traditions, and growing this annual Juneteenth celebration. Visit songsofblackfolk.org to donate, volunteer, or learn more. We don't just witness history, we make sure it echoes. I'm Jamar Wakefield, and this is In the Wake TV. Until next time, keep listening, keep remembering, and stay in the wake.